Now, when factors exist out there that will cause both supply and demand to shift, this is where it gets a little tricky. So let's say there was an increase in the number of suppliers, so we would see an increase in supply. And actually, let's back up for 1 second and make sure that you put in your original price and quantity. It's easier if you label right away. That was my mistake. So let's say we saw an increase in supply, and there was information released that told people, how to use this certain product. So if we were going to talk about eggs, how to use eggs, we know from our other demand worksheet that caused an increase in demand. Now we have a new equilibrium point where my red lines cross, or where supply to and demand to cross each other. You'll see that I for sure have an increase in quantity, but when I try to draw my price line back, it kind of overlaps the other one. If you drew your graph so that your supply curve was kind of up here, your demand curve was up here, and you saw an increase in price, that's okay. But what we're going to need to realize is that since we don't know the magnitude of these shifts, since we have no idea, we can't say whether price increased or decreased, because I can draw my graph. If I try, let me use a different color, see if that helps a little bit. So if I draw my demand curve, if my demand shifted way up here, this would be my new price line, and this would be my new quantity line. But if my demand didn't shift that much and it only went here, this would be my new price line. So I can show you that price increases or price decreases. If you can learn to draw your graphs so that, like how I originally did it, where it looked like it was going to stay the same, then what that tells you is that that variable, so it's either going to be price or quantity, is going to stay the same and not change. But no matter what happened, no matter what I did, my quantity increased the entire time. So no matter what, I ended up over to the right of the quantity that I had originally started with. So for that, our conclusions would then mean we would say that quantity increased, but price is a question mark. Price is unknown. Depending on the magnitude of the shift, we could increase or decrease our price when both curves end up shifting. And what this means is that this is going to happen. So if we're going to shift both curves, either price or quantity, not both, just one, is going to be an unknown factor because we don't know the magnitude of the shift. So let's say we still saw an increase in supply, but there was a recall that had come out, and so we ended up seeing a decrease in demand. And I made the mistake again of not doing this first, so make sure that you do that first. Do as I say, not as I do. So then your new quantity and price are going to be where the two new lines are S2 and D2 intersect, or the two red lines. And so now what we're seeing is that price for sure decreases, but our quantity looks like it's going to stay the same. And if you drew so that quantity increased, see if you can draw just one curve. Don't shift both of them again. Only do this with one. See if you draw a shorter shift with your demand curve and then a longer shift, if you can make your price increase or decrease. And so this conclusion would be that price decreases and quantity is unknown.